Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into my official college football predictions for week number 7, where I predict the final score of every single game involving a ranked opponent. Guys, please, before the video starts, make sure you like the video down below, but let's get right into it, beginning with the single Friday night matchup we have. It is South Florida taking on North Texas. North Texas, the Mean Green, undefeated. If they win this game, I think they're going to be ranked. South Florida just re-entering the ranks with the one lone loss on the road at Miami. Basically a pick 'em. Should be a fun, higher scoring game. North Texas, maybe a slight edge. 1.5-point favorites at home. But I will be going with South Florida. This really is a coin flip game. I do think it'll probably come down to a field goal, but I like South Florida. North Texas, to me, they've had some close games. They had like an overtime game with a MAC school, I think Western Michigan. I'll take South Florida with their lone loss being at Miami to win this one. But again, very likely a pick-em coin flip game. Higher scoring game, of course, 34-31 there. Moving on to the Saturday noon window. This is the big noon Fox game. It is number 1 versus number 17, Ohio State traveling to Champaign. The first time they are on the road at Illinois since, I want to say 2014 or 2015. It has been almost a decade for the Buckeyes. And actually it's been over a decade if it's 2014. And what a matchup this is. Ohio State minus 14.5, Illinois' best team in a while. Luke Altmaier, believe it or not, and I'll say this as someone who has said Illinois has been really overrated. Offensively, they've impressed me. They've been better than I thought. However, this seems like a mismatch. Ohio State's defense has not allowed double digits yet this season. The Illini, while they've played well, Altmaier 0 interceptions. It kind of feels like he's due for a game of multiple interceptions. In Ohio State, the offense seemingly clicking. This will be a good litmus test for the Buckeyes. They go on the road to a hostile environment against a good defense. Similar thing happened a few weeks ago, although I will say Illinois is a lot better than Washington defensively, but we saw Ohio State really baby Julian Sayin. They come back home against Minnesota. They air out the ball. Carnell Tate has a career day. What are they going to do now? Again, going on the road. A little bit of a concern with the Ohio State running game situation. Bo Jackson, the true freshman, looks really good. But if you're Illinois, keep the game close early. Ohio State tends to play more conservative on the road. At least that's what we saw in their game against Washington. Maybe that's just getting Julian Sayin up to speed. He is still a young quarterback. This is just a matchup to where I don't see Illinois having the skill position players to really threaten the Buckeyes defense. Now, if Ohio State comes out and plays zone, the seams tend to be there when they do that. Ohio State did switch to man around midway through the first quarter against Minnesota, and Minnesota couldn't do anything. But if Ohio State comes out in zone with 2 deep safeties, Illinois and Luke Altmaier potentially could have a few decent drives. We'll see what Ohio State does. They're sitting minus 14.5, and Ohio State is 4-1 against the spread. They are the number 1 team in the nation. I do think overall, pound for pound, this is the most talented roster in college football, and I'm going to pick them to cover minus the 14.5. It's a tough number. They could win 31-17 and they don't cover, but I do think Illinois probably will settle for a few field goals. Ohio State's red zone defense is amazing. I don't know if you can really, honestly, I guess you can maintain that because you think, well, the red zone defense is going to fall off at some point if you're giving up a bunch of yards. But it's not even like Ohio State has given up a bunch of yards. They don't allow opponents to get into the red zone very often. And when the opponents do, they pretty much always have to settle for a field goal. And Illinois does not have the running game to match up with Ohio State. It's just, I don't see where the points are coming from. And I know the Illini have been good offensively. They had 500 yards of offense against USC. They were really good last week against Purdue. They covered a spread. I thought the game was going to be close. They played really well. I give them credit for that, but we know they got annihilated on the road at Indiana. I do think that was an aberration. I do. But they're just, you can tell there's a talent discrepancy. Ohio State's much more sound. And I feel bad for Illinois. This should be a night game. It's 11 a.m. Central start there in Champaign, but I will be taking Ohio State to win that one. Another noon game. It is Alabama traveling on the road to Missouri. So this is a game that's going to have a lot of narratives, specifically regarding Alabama the first 2 years under DeBoer. They've been terrible on the road. Anyone with a pulse has played them competitively or won. We saw it last year, especially at Oklahoma. We saw it also last year at Vanderbilt. This year, Alabama sitting at number 8. Missouri is undefeated at 14. Missouri's been really an irrelevant team this year. 2 weeks ago, they faced UMass. Last week, they had a bye. So it's like we're going on 3 weeks where nobody even knows Missouri exists. And they are undefeated. They are an SEC team. But the toughest team they faced is South Carolina at home. They just haven't played anyone. And they do have a running back that's really good. You could say their running game is better than Bama's running game. They're hosting Bama, of course, in this one. Bama sitting only -2.5. They were -4.5. It's been bet down like crazy. I think they were -5.5. I think the opening line was Bama -5.5. But there's a narrative that Bama, under this current new regime, they cannot win on the road. I think Bama in this game, you have to look at it. They do have one loss. It's not a great loss to FSU, but it's a situation to where they're still undefeated in SEC play. So technically they could lose this game and not be fine, but they'd still be in position to be all right in terms of their chances of making the SEC championship game. They've got the head-to-head over Georgia. They just beat a decent Vanderbilt team. But I think Bama guts this one out. They win this football game. I really do. Now, this line will probably shift, and maybe the 2.5-point cover will become invalidated if it shifts back to 3.5. Maybe it'll go to 1.5. I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of people saying, and I do understand, this is a very, very challenging spot for Bama. Bama, 2 weeks ago, they're at Georgia. And by the way, if you look into that Georgia game, that was a little fluky, Bama winning that game 13 of 19 on third downs. A team that really can't run the ball. Last week, I guess, Jam Miller, 136 rushing yards. It was decent. But still, I don't really trust Alabama to run the ball. But 2 weeks ago at Georgia, last week versus Vanderbilt, a lot of hype surrounding both of those games. Missouri has just been, they've had bye weeks the entire season. I mean, outside of, I guess, South Carolina, they're a decent team. But like these teams could not be polar opposite in terms of the season trajectory and the big games that they've had or haven't had. So it's a very interesting contrast. But, Bama, you could say Bama's battle tested. I think Ty Simpson's a solid quarterback. I will say, I was rooting for the Bama cover against Vanderbilt. Ty Simpson took some really inexplicable sacks. He's got to learn to throw the football away. There was at least 2 or 3 times where I was like, dude, just throw it away. And this is, it's a raucous environment. It's a challenge, but I'm going to go with Bama gutting out a win, and they cover that 2.5-point spread. Another noon game, it is FSU taking on Pitt. So Pittsburgh performed very, very well last week at Boston College. They were 6.5-point favorites. They won by 41 points. Analytically, they were one of the biggest risers of the week last week. I'm not sure, anyone really cares, but they are 3-2. FSU was also 3-2. FSU was hanging on to a top 25 ranking at number 25 because of their week 1 win over Alabama. The loss to Miami, I don't think was... It was a weird loss. I mean, you could say, well, they were getting blown out. Yeah, there were some fluky things, and that happened in that. I mean, that was a closer game than the score indicated. That was never really a 28-3 game. FSU had some issues with turnovers, and it happens. It is what it is. I'm not saying FSU should have won that game, but I don't think it was really this rout that was, projected with the 28-3 margin. But either way, FSU was sitting -9.5. I think FSU covers in this game. I'm starting to like FSU more. See, the thing is, everyone wanted to anoint FSU. Everyone does this after week 1. It's like, oh, they must be the greatest team ever because they won a week 1 game. It's like, let's calm down. They beat Alabama. But now it's like everyone hates FSU, so now I like them. So I'm actually going to go with FSU to cover in this game, -9.5. I think they're talented enough. Robinson, the hybrid tight end receiver, Castellanos. I mean, you could say, well, Pittsburgh. I mean, this game very easily could have been FSU -14.5. The only reason it's -9.5 because Pittsburgh just annihilated Boston College, and their analytical number moved up significantly. But I'll still take FSU to win that game and cover. 12:45 SEC. Yeah, this is the weird SEC window. It is Ole Miss hosting Washington State. Ole Miss coming in at number 4. Ole Miss had a bye last week. Ole Miss is a real interesting team with 2 capable quarterbacks. I think Trinidad Chambliss is probably going to start in this game. Simmons is fine, but I mean, at this point, it's like he's been usurped. So they've got an interesting quarterback situation, but they're both very capable. Washington State is terrible. Washington State got annihilated by North Texas. Washington State got crushed by Washington. This game is not going to be close. I would be very surprised if Ole Miss didn't at least score 45 points. Probably a 50-burger, though. They win this game 52-14. I think they cover the 32.5. I just don't think it's enough based on how bad Washington State has been. They did win last week against Colorado State 20-3. you give them credit for that, but still, I don't see it. Anytime Washington State faces anyone with a pulse, it's not close. So I will go with Ole Miss. Moving on to the 3:30 window, it is Oregon taking on Indiana. This is a 7v3 game, huge game in the Big Ten. Certainly could decide which one of these teams makes the Big Ten championship, because you would think Ohio State facing neither of these teams, they go undefeated in the regular season, they're going to be in, and then possibly the winner of this is going to be in because they have the tiebreaker. So if Indiana beats Oregon but loses to Penn State, they would still have the tiebreaker over Oregon. Same thing with Oregon. Oregon is sitting -7.5 in this one. There's been a lot of hype with Indiana. Last year, I think everybody knew that Indiana was kind of a paper tiger. They played an easy schedule. The analytics didn't love them. This year, people are saying, well, it's different. And the reason they're saying it's different is because specifically Indiana annihilated Illinois by 53 points, and their analytical number got moved inside the top 5. I mean, this, according to ESPN FPI, which everyone thinks is this SEC bias metric, Indiana is like number 5 in the country. And again, that's because they beat a top 25 team analytically by 53 points. So now everyone's like, well, this is a different team. And I do think Fernando Mendoza is a better quarterback than what they had last year with Rourke. They probably have better skill position players. But like, you look at Indiana, I believe right now they have the number 4 scoring offense and the number 3 scoring defense. Are they really going to keep that up? Seriously, they're not going to. Like, we got to stop with this Indiana obsession. And look, I think Indiana probably going to make the playoff, although we'll see. They're going to have to beat Penn State still on the road. I know everyone thinks Penn State is terrible now, but we will have to see. I think Oregon wins this game relatively easily. There's going to be a lot of people like, ooh, Indiana's great value plus a 7.5. Yeah, I don't think so. And with Oregon, the other thing you could say, it's like they beat Penn State on the road in a whiteout. That's the best win of the season. Well, suddenly Penn State's unranked now. And by the way, Penn State, honestly, people are going to be angry. Penn State's a top 25 team. Let's be real. Like, we're going to really do this. They lose to UCLA. I guess a bad loss, but it's a bad reflection now on Oregon because, like, well, it took Oregon overtime to beat Penn State. Penn State's unranked, but come on. I don't know. I think Oregon wins this game. And Indiana, they've been so dominant this year, but it really is just they're being propped up by that game against Illinois. And it's an impressive win. It's a good win. But it's kind of an exaggerated margin where the game gets out of hand early. And those games can tend to have it. It turns into a rout. All the momentum is on one side. I think Oregon wins this game easily. They cover the 7.5. Another 3:30 game, It is Oklahoma taking on Texas. Oklahoma coming in at number 6. This is the neutral site game, the Cotton Bowl Red River rivalry. And this is a brutal game to pick. I don't even know what to say about this game. So John Mateer, we'll see if he plays. It's just, it's Monday. So I think Mateer, just based off his personality, is probably going to try and gut this game out. But then that creates another hurdle of, well, how healthy is he actually? So then we have to try and decipher and project that. And we know with how Oklahoma plays, they're going to need Mateer as his dual threat self. They really struggle to run the ball. Looking at the Texas team, Texas is now unranked. They lost to Ohio State. They beat 3 really bad teams, and they lost to Florida. So they're unranked at 3-2. Arch Manning, I don't know what you do with him. I mean, I thought he played better in the second half of that game against Florida. You could say, well, Florida was backing off a little bit. They were up by 2 scores playing prevent defense. But I was shocked at how bad Texas's defense was against that Florida offense. That was really, and you could say what you want about Arch Manning, 19 first half points against that Florida offense that was turning the ball over like 10 times a half. And Texas's defense, who everyone thinks is like top 5, is going to go in there and allow them to score like 2 straight touchdowns to start the game. It's like, come on. Really? I mean, I have no clue what's going to happen. Texas is sitting as 2.5-point favorites as an unranked team against the number 6 team in the country. And some of that is Mateer's injury. Some of that is also just, obviously, Texas being unranked it doesn't compute analytically. We think they still have a good defense, right? I don't know. This game's impossible to predict. I'm going to go with Texas. I know people are going to be like, how do you do that? How is that? But it's like, what do you want me to say? I still think Texas has a good defense. Who knows if Mateer's going to play? Okay, so he's going to play. Is he 100%? Is he 80%? Can he run the ball? This Oklahoma team, to me, they're being anointed way too early. They really struggle to run the ball. They don't have elite receivers. they're going to struggle to generate big plays against this Texas defense, who you would think is galvanized. You would think Steve Sarkisian, he's made the playoff the past 2 years. There's going to be some continuity there. This is not as bad of a Texas team as people are saying. It's an overreaction, especially when it comes. Their defense has to play better. And I know Arch Manning he hasn't looked good, and you could say they should bench him. I don't know what they're going to do with him. The entire thing with Arch Manning's been a debacle. People thought he was injured. He was wincing constantly in the previous games. He's just an inaccurate quarterback. So if he's just, you got to move on. If he's just not good, I don't know what you do if you're Texas. I think Texas has to rely on their defense. If you're facing Hawkins, you're facing a backup QB. You gotta. There's no reason Oklahoma should score above 20 points if you're facing a backup. Or Mateer is potentially not 100%. So I'm gonna go to Texas wins this game outright. But they are 2.5-point favorites. That line will probably. I mean, I think the line probably shifts to a pick'em. I think we'll see. My guess is there's going to be a lot of momentum that Mateer plays in this game. Just with Mateer having the surgery like 3 weeks ago, it seems like he's going to try and get through this one. Hawkins does have some experience. I mean, he played last week. He played last year a little bit. Last week was against Kent State. They're horrible, but I'm going to go with Texas to win that game. Another 3:30 game. It is Georgia Tech taking on Virginia Tech. A battle of the Techs. Georgia Tech at number 13. Virginia Tech, what are they, 2-4 this year? I actually think Virginia Tech's better than their record. I think Virginia Tech keeps this game close. I'm not forgetting that game 2 weeks ago. I know Georgia Tech had a bye this past week. 2 weeks ago, they should have lost to Wake Forest. Wake Forest is not a good football team. I'm sorry. They're sitting minus 14.5. I get they're undefeated. I'm going to go with them winning this game. I honestly think Va Tech could win this game outright, though. But I'm going to go with Georgia Tech, kind of winning a weird, peculiar score, 26-19, 7-point victory. They don't cover the 14.5 in that one. Another 3:30 game. This is a Peacock exclusive game. You're kidding me. I like NBC's presentation. I really do. I'm disappointed this game is on Peacock. I'm not watching it on Peacock. Streaming is terrible for college football. It's terrible for sports in general. It just doesn't work. But it is Notre Dame at number 16 taking on NC State. Notre Dame has a ridiculously easy remaining schedule. I mean, they have like a 42% chance to win out, and that's with 7 games remaining. So Notre Dame and NC State, they're all right. They tend to allow a lot of points. Notre Dame sitting minus 22.5. I look at Notre Dame and I look at Ohio State, and to me, these are teams that are just consistently beating their spread lines. And so it's like, do I really pick against them? This is a little bit more of an exaggerated margin. It's 22.5. Last week it was, 17-18. They were able to cover against Boise, only scoring 28 points because they won 28-7. They're going to have to score more points. Now, Notre Dame's offense has been good this year. 2 great running backs, young quarterback that's improving. It's a Notre Dame team that does need style points. They have to make sure analytically they're there at the end of the year, because if they finish 10-2, they probably are not going to have a ranked win, or maybe they'll have one ranked win. They need these style points. They need to win these games easily. I think they win this game. They cover the 22.5, 42-17. They've been covering these last few games. I think they continue to roll, and they beat a NC State previously. I mean, in previous years, they were better than they are this year. Notre Dame wins easily. Another 3:30 game. It is Iowa State traveling to Colorado. So this is a 1:30 Mountain Time start. Iowa State is still ranked, and I bet against Iowa State all year. And then last week I said, you know what? I'm going to pick Iowa State. I think they win at Cincinnati, and then they get annihilated. And so now it's like, do I just rage quit Iowa State and just get it wrong again? Or do I say, let's calm down, let's take a deep breath, and let's roll with Iowa State again and use a 2,000 IQ play? Iowa State wins this game. They cover the 4.5. Colorado is not a good team. Believe they're 2-4 this year. There's some rumors about Deion Sanders. What is he going to do? Iowa State, I'm not a big believer in them, but I think they win this game on the road. 4.5-point favorites. Just, you know what? We're not going to do this thing. It's like I'm a cat chasing my own tail with Iowa State. What am I going to rage quit and say, oh, they're going to lose outright, and then they win? I'm not going to do that. I think they win this game and they cover. I'm still on them. Next, we've got Arkansas traveling to Tennessee. Tennessee, boy, when is the last time Tennessee played? Like a month ago? I mean, I think Tennessee's had like 2 straight bye weeks. I don't think I've ever seen that before. How have you had 2 straight bye weeks? No, they did face someone. The problem with Tennessee is they only play on the SEC network. I think this game as well is on the SEC network. But they're facing Arkansas 415. They're minus 12.5. Arkansas coming off firing their coach. They got destroyed by Notre Dame. Remember that. Maybe they're going to be galvanized. I think Arkansas has a decent offense, higher scoring game, but I think Tennessee wins and covers. Tennessee minus the 12.5. High octane offense. They win the game easily there. Moving on to the night window, the 7 o'clock games. This is a 7 o'clock game exactly. It is Florida taking on A&M. A&M with another home game. So this is Texas A&M's ninth straight home. I'm kidding. But it feels like they played a lot of home games now. But Texas A&M sitting minus 8.5. Kind of a weird line. I don't think they really know how to judge Florida, Vegas, that is, in terms of setting these lines. Florida is just they're a very hard team because they come back, they play really well against Texas. The offense looks good. I think Florida has some momentum. And honestly, you look at that A&M game, and I appreciate A&M for covering against, what was it, Mississippi State? But A&M was not good offensively. They scored 17 fourth quarter points. It was 31-9. That game was a lot closer than the final score indicates. I think Florida plays good defense, a lower scoring game. I'll take A&M to win. To me, A&M is a placeholder at number 5. I think they're gonna. Well, they do have an easy schedule. To be fair, but I don't love A&M's offense. A&M does have a good defense. In a game like this, I think they win. But this is one of those to where I pick them to cover the 14.5. They cover easily. Now I'm hot on A&M. Now I know I can read this A&M team. They're not going to cover this 8.5. Florida's got a good defense. A&M, they were worse than the final score indicated last week. They win this game, but it's closer than people think. Florida has the momentum coming off their win, but they are a very bipolar team. It's tough, but Florida does have a solid defense. You look at their defense, it's very good. We've got another 7 o'clock game. It is Texas Tech taking on Kansas. I do like Jayhawk football. I'd like Kansas. I think they're a good offensive team. But it is hard to pick against Texas Tech right now. Texas Tech at number 9 in the country. Everyone wants to anoint them. I'm just not there yet on them. I think they win this game. It's hard to pick against them. I get, minus the 14.5. I'm going to have to go with them covering. They've been covering all these games. They look good. They did crush Houston. I can't deny it. I mean, that's a really good defensive performance. 11 points again. Houston's not a good team, though. Let's be honest. Like, oh, Houston's undefeated. Come on. We're not going to do that. It's like, oh, Houston was undefeated and they crushed them. Really? Seriously? Let's not do that one. But I think Texas Tech wins this game and they cover the 14.5 because, it's like you look at Texas Tech, Notre Dame, Ohio State. These are teams, they're constantly covering spreads. I'm not going to mess with that. Now, maybe at some point it'll stop and we'll see. But let's just not mess with those teams. They've been on a roll. So Texas Tech is another one. I'm just going to go with it. Now moving on to the primetime 7:30 games. This is a primetime game. Are you kidding me? Is this really the ABC 7:30 game? Seriously? Or is this the ESPN? No, I think this is the ABC game. But it is Georgia traveling to take on Auburn. Georgia is sitting minus 3.5. But now, if I were to blindly predict the spread going into this game, I'd say it's probably UGA minus 7. And I understand Auburn has a nice defense. They're at home. It's an SEC game. It's a hostile environment. Okay. But this spread is just simply not correct. And I get it's only a 65% chance to win. So technically you could say, yeah. But me personally, this is like a 6.5 point, 7 point game. I mean, Auburn does not have the offense. They don't. Now you could say, what do they just have a bye week? They're going to be better. I mean, Georgia played well against Kentucky. Yes, there is the narrative going around about Kirby Smart. This is the worst Georgia team he's had. Or maybe one of the worst Georgia teams he's had, I should say. But I think UGA wins this game. They're going to shut down Auburn. The 3.5 point spread, it just does not compute with me. I would even say like a 5.5 point spread is more realistic. I mean, Georgia is just better than Auburn, and Auburn does not have the offense to really score 20 points, honestly. I mean, they had that game, 2 or 3 weeks ago against A&M, 16-10. They should have lost that game by like 30 points, honestly. I think they're a fraud. Well, you can't even say they're a fraudulent team. They're not even ranked. But analytically, the analytics still have them inside the top 25. They just don't have a good offense. Sure, they've got elite receivers. Jackson Arnold can't get them the ball. So I'm going to take Georgia to win this game and to cover that spread. Another 7:30 game, we've got Michigan traveling at unranked USC. Kind of an interesting one. So USC is 2.5 point favorites, unranked, facing a top 15 team. Now, USC, the last time they played, they lost to Illinois on the road, and it was very disappointing because they had just gotten ranked. They were an analytical sweetheart, and they just got beaten on both the lines, offensive, defensive. And that's a big problem when facing Michigan because that's where Michigan loves to play and win. You look at USC, I do think they're a lot more explosive. Maeva, Makai Lemon, phenomenal young receiver, short receiver, but good. And Michigan, on the other hand, Bryce Underwood, it's a work in progress. It's hard to start and excel as a true freshman, but they really cannot throw the ball for anything, Michigan. I mean, at this point, they're really, really trying to sell Underwood as this dual threat. And I think in the future years, he's going to be a lot more of a pocket passer. But right now, Michigan, it's a combination of Underwood being very young and also them just not having the true number one receiver and even an elite tight end that they've previously had. And so it's kind of this weird combination. And by the way, Michigan is running the ball extremely well. And I mean, do we really expect Haynes to average 7.5 yards per carry throughout the entire season? I just can't see that. So what happens when he has a game where he's averaging 4.5 yards or, even against Oklahoma, he had the really long touchdown run. They still lost that game. But I just think USC needs this game. I mean, this is a home game. They faced Michigan last year on the road. That was a bad Michigan team. They lost. Now you're at home. You've got a clear advantage when you look at these two offenses. I think Michigan has an advantage looking at the lines, offensive and defensive line. That could be an issue for USC, especially trying to run the ball. But I mean, USC, Lincoln Riley, you have got to win this. If they win this game, they're probably going to be a top 15 team, USC, because they only have the one tough loss on the road. I think USC wins. They cover the 2.5. It was 1.5. It got better. And really, I mean, analytics will say they should probably be minus 3.5 to 4. So I'm going to take USC to win this game and cover. I just think Michigan's passing offense is not good enough. But they're certainly probably going to win the line of scrimmage, which could be a big issue for USC. Now we've got South Carolina taking on LSU. LSU at number 11 in the country. LSU sitting almost a 10-point favorite. I think South Carolina is going to hang in this game. This reminds me of the South Carolina-Missouri game. Missouri was like minus 12. That was a game in which nobody knew if Lenora Sellers was going to play. But I said, I think South Carolina is going to stay within 12 on the road. And I think South Carolina is going to stay within 9.5 on the road. I mean, this is an LSU team that can't run the ball. They're just not as good as people thought they were going to be offensively. I think LSU wins, but it's a cover for SC. South Carolina turning into kind of a little bit of an underrated team at this point. I'm not saying they should be ranked, but I don't think they're nearly as bad. I mean, they did easily beat Kentucky by a similar margin, as Georgia just did. So you've got that. I mean, I think South Carolina hangs in there and they cover the 9.5. Next, we've got BYU taking on Arizona. BYU sitting at number 18 in the country. Arizona, I trusted Arizona a few weeks ago. They really let me down. Was that a game against Iowa State, I believe? BYU only sitting minus 1.5, 70% chance to win. I think BYU wins this game on the road. I understand people like, well, they're due for a loss. It's a mosh pit in this conference. But I think BYU wins this game, and they cover the 1.5 points. So it's basically a pick 'em. And then we've got a 10-15 game. It is Arizona State taking on Utah. Utah sitting minus 5.5. Believe both these teams had a bye last week. Arizona State, they were number 25, and then during the bye, they catapulted to number 21. Or I'm not sure that's the correct verbiage. You can't really catapult 4 spots. You move up 4 spots. They moved up 4 spots. Utah minus 5.5. I like Arizona State. I think Arizona State is a little bit underrated in terms of this spread. I think Arizona State keeps this game close. Utah wins. The Utah really struggled that big noon game they had at home. Their offense was anemic. I like Sam Levitt. I believe they'll stay within 5.5. Will they win outright? I don't know. Arizona State, a lot of people liked them preseason. Yeah, maybe they haven't played as well. They did beat TCU a few weeks ago. Weeknight game, Friday night game. So I think they keep it within 3. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for my college football week number 7 picks and predictions. Make sure you like the video down below. Also follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.